Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do another video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of my water first, get my beautiful radio voice going, and let's talk about this. All right. Not sure what I'm going to title this video yet, but what I want to talk about is when I talk about lean gains or losing body fat, I am not talking the same about looking more ripped always. Here's what people need to remember. I have said repeatedly, eating a very low-fat diet, particularly high-carbohydrate diet, and obviously protein works too there, but very high-carb, high-protein, very low-fat diets give you the leanest gains possible. All right. When I say that, I'm not saying that you're going to look your best while doing it. Right? Hopefully everyone understands this. And if you don't, do it for a while. What happens a lot of times, guys, when they're lean bulking this way, they're like, man, I'm flatter, I'm smoother, I'm puffier. They're holding extra water. Muscles are always full, but they don't always look their best depending upon the person and their electrolyte intakes and everything. But you are going to be very lean. Okay, so we need to be clear here. If your goal is to lose the fat tissue or to gain as little as possible while you're overeating, like bulking to gain muscle, this strategy works, and it works extremely well. Okay, keeping your fat as low as possible and just getting your essential fats, like the omega-3s and things that you need for basic health, works wonders here. When we are cutting and you maintain that approach, many people will still be puffy. Like I'm always like that. I'm a perfect example. However, when you cut carbohydrates really low, lots of guys notice, not everyone gets flat when they do that. When you cut carbohydrates very low, it's easier for you to look leaner. It's easier for people to look leaner. And it's not because of everything that people think. They're like, oh, it's because less glucose in the muscle. But not everyone's muscles always flatten out on lower carb. Okay? That's not the only thing happening. It also adjusts the rate at which you excrete sodium and other stuff. In other words, very low carbohydrate can make you lose subcutaneous water also. It is easier for a lot of people to look better and to look more aesthetic. So a lot of times people, when they do lower carbs, are like, well, I get really ripped when I do keto. All right, but keep in mind, depending upon the nature of the keto, it may not be optimal for health or blood work or even body composition. Like if you're eating tons of saturated fat in that, it really isn't optimal. So I tell people, if you're wanting to look leaner and you're not necessarily trying to gain a bunch of muscle now at this time, but you're at a healthy low body fat and you want some of the cuts to start coming out. You want some of the skin to suck in, everything to get tighter. Dropping your carbs down, cutting them way back, and say adding healthy fats in to replace some of those calories can make you look a lot leaner. Okay, it can make you look a lot leaner because it makes you lose the excess water. It has to do with your GI tract, because that's also a problem also. When we're eating really high carbohydrates, we oftentimes have a more full gut. We have more gut volume. Our intestines and our gut hold more water, and it can also make you hold more water in things around your waistline, depending upon the person. I'm one of those people. So, like recently, I reduced some of my carbs. I'd been eating all these really healthy carbs and have been doing very, very low fat. And then I looked a lot puffier, waist bigger, even my loose skin started to look looser around the waistline. I cut a bunch of those carbs out, replaced it with, a lot of healthy fats, polyunsaturated fats, heavy reliance on omega-3, and then obviously some monounsaturated and stuff in there. What happened? Then I started tightening up more, and then people noticed within days. They're like, man. And I dropped about 4 pounds within a matter of days. My waistline went down a couple inches. And I'm still continuing to do this as I'm leaning out, purely by doing that. And it will make you look leaner. I think what people need to understand here, but we're talking about differences in fluid balance at this point. So what we need to understand is that this is a fluid balance difference. It's not necessarily superior for losing body fat. In fact, as much as I love to say, look, the really high carb, low fat is great for really lean gains, it's even potentially great for recomposition. It's absolutely superior for lean gains, right? To minimize fat gain while you're trying to gain weight. Works amazingly well because you can't store carbs to an appreciable degree. You're not storing any of them under your skin. So if you're gaining anything that looks soft, it's generally water. It works amazingly well. However, you know, if you're eating thousands of calories of brown rice every day and stuff, you will have a more distended gut. You're going to be smoother on the waistline. You're going to be holding more water. So when then people trim the carbs out, then they tighten up. So I think what people need to understand is the difference is your body composition is not necessarily going to improve when you drop the carbs. People need to understand this. You may look better. And that doesn't hold true for everyone. I find it holds true for a lot of people. It holds true for me. I've known other people who talk about it. Some pretty big names out there in the industry will say these same things. When they want to be ripped, that is what they do. And they may do it for months. They want to have that look. And then when they add carbs back in, they get a lot smoother. Some people actually can stay dry on really high carbohydrate. And I think to some extent it's just the way their body handles and processes sodium. And I think it's very much potentially a genetic thing. It has to do with the amount of aldosterone their body produces, all of these other things. And I think this really holds true particularly for enhanced lifters. I've noticed very, very true in that case. It can be a massive deal, more so than naturals. But that's what a lot of people will advocate them to do when they're like, okay, I want to just look better and I'm not as concerned with making the lean gains. And while I'm cutting, can I tighten up more faster? And that's when I would say, look, as long as your training isn't suffering from it, if you want to replace most of your carbohydrates at that point with healthy fats, it works great. As long as the calorie deficit's there, you're going to lose the body fat. As long as the training recovery and the protein is there, your potential for recomposition is going to be there potentially to some extent, depending upon how small or big of a deficit you run. You'll probably tighten up. You may look a couple body fat percentages lower. Okay, and it's a viable strategy, but you have to understand the why you were doing it. And people do need to grasp that when they're doing this. It's not necessarily going to make you lose fat more quickly. It seems like they're very, very equal, and it's been studied long-term in the lab. High carb versus low fat or low carb versus high fat don't produce dramatically different results in terms of fat tissue loss as long as the deficits are similar. It's when we go into a surplus or sometimes even potentially maintenance calories, but definitely a surplus, that's when it matters the most. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.